As I say, it's like it's one other way of like experiencing the world, right? Beyond your senses, you can see data and like experience something which is not there. So, for example, I cannot see how much a million one person have in terms of trillions, but data is a way I can experience that. So it can be really ugly as well, but like it is beautiful in a way.
Over the years, online, we've laid down a huge amount of information and data, and we irrigated it with networks and connectivity, and it's been worked and tilled by unpaid workers and governments. And all right, I'm kind of milking the metaphor a little bit, but it's a really fertile medium. And it feels like visualizations, infographics, data visualizations, they feel like flowers blooming from this medium.
But my experience would be like it's rather than seeing through your eyes and your perception of things, like you are actually like basing it on an objective data source.
There's a lot of fine arts artists also use data visualization to make some art piece, but that is quite a different thing, because in that cases it no longer contains any very direct or obvious data, but it's quite a fine art thing. And in that sense, it's not used to like make people understand some questions, but it's just, oh look, it's beautiful and it's come from blah blah data.
The way architecture is art and science of buildings, so in visualizing data might be like art and science of communicating data. So that can be like it's both. It cannot be like one or the other. For example, if I think like Bloomsbury as a area like, or a Bloomsbury Park like a square, it has changed over a period of time, and if I want to depict that I can do it either from my subjective view, saying like, so this is how it used to be and like this is how it changed and that kind of stuff, or I can do it in an objective way, saying like what has happened, like in terms of data, saying like how the buildings have changed. So it's still the same. Like I feel it's still the same, and it, as long as it evokes this, gets the same emotions out of the end user, the end audience, like it should be the same. When you're doing a database art, like a database visualization and infographic, that takes the subjectivity out of the message. Basically, it's an objective message, because there is no subjectivity in terms of like what you want to show, because it's based on data. So that might sound like it's not art because there is no subjectivity there, but like in terms of the emotions you evoke from people, like it's the same. So basically, like if you want to make someone surprised by something, saying like then it's still like it's evoking emotions. Like same way like an artist will paint a portrait of the street and say like, oh, the street has like changed a lot. Like we can actually do it with the infographics as well. The emotion it evokes is the same, but it just like there is a loss of subjectivity in terms of like the message, because it is an objective message. It doesn't change. It's factually based. Yeah, like I do agree with that. That's saying like it's a form of art. Major part of my work is also like visualizing the data we have into something which is digestible. So for example, like the problem we face with sensor-based data is that like it's too much for anyone to like actually like make any sense out of it. So the first step is like where you can visualize it and present it in a way it's understandable for people, and then we can make like we can use the data for much more better, like advanced things.
In my personal cases, it's more like some things is, or some trends or some outcome you don't know at first, but you kind of finding it or you discover it in the process of data visualizing it. For instance, for one case I've done for several years ago is about I got a very pure status and pure data of movies, like top 100 movies, blah blah, and they're all like, oh, their years, their gender, their star, and their main characters is blah 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 blah. So they're quite trivial. Is that word? And you can't barely see anything from it. But after you're trying to visualize it in different ways, and some trends happen in that process, and you kind of discover, oh, I see, this kind of person tends to have that kind of bad outcome, but this kind of personality tends to have those kind of good outcome. So that things happens in the process of this. So I think that is kind of significance of data visualizations.
I didn't know like half the stuff in that visualization, but like it does a very good job of like communicating that. So, yeah. So I think like so basically I would say like there are two things this does in a way. One is like it tries to show like tries to show what a trillion is basically. So this is something which we used to have in town planning. So we used to have this like concept of like what is 1,000 people. So for a person to be a experienced town planner, the difference between an experienced town planner and the person who's starting out is like you don't have a concept of what's 1,000 people. So if somebody says like there are 10,000 people and like 10,000 people in this square, can you know what 10,000 people is? Like, so this makes a good it's very good in explaining what a trillion is. Like that's true, and it does have this social message as well. It's like wealth of the one person. When you compare it, like it's actually like really large.
It's true that sometimes if you pursue it more in data aesthetics, then some of the data accuracy or the information might be lost in some degree. But I guess it depends on what's your main aim. It's like more people to understand this, or they need to see a very clear data, or they have to see a very clear information, or they just have to see the trends. Like for this one, if you want people to get to know a very accurate data, then some of the aesthetics things might not be that important in this case. So it depends on your aim, I guess.
I think it pertains to like the person's integrity of whoever is doing it, and it also is about like the trust people place in the artist or like the data scientist, like whoever's doing that. And in my opinion, like you should be free to do whatever you want to do, but audience's trust is based on what you have done before. I think it's not a question of in visualization process, but it's a question of like the person who is doing it and where he draws the line.